Gorilla Property Services started as really a licensing deal in Canada. Let's say $800 to $2,000 for these services, whereas commercial jobs can average 30, 40,000. So the range of investment is 128,000 to about 215,000. So it's quite low for a home service business.
Before you explore franchise options, take a few minutes to understand how you are wired. The assessment link is below. Today, we're diving into a category that a lot of people overlook, but quietly builds strong, scalable businesses. Gorilla Property Services is an exterior cleaning and maintenance company in the highly fragmented commercial, industrial, multifamily, and home service category. Gorilla is the one-stop shop for property and facility managers to assist in all exterior services required to manage and maintain property assets. There are very few cleaning and maintenance brands on the national level and none that do commercial, industrial, institutional, and residential. I'm joined by Chris Miles, Director of Franchise Development, to break down how this business actually operates, where the revenue comes from, and what it takes to grow into something meaningful. Welcome, Chris.
Laura, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and looking forward to it. So tell us a little bit of background about yourself, how you got into franchising and started working with Gorilla.
Yes. So I work with Franchise Fastlane, which is a franchise sales organization. I've been on several brands. My original background, though, was in fitness. So I started in the fitness industry many years ago and with 24-hour fitness. I don't know, but I think there's still a lot of them around. I don't know how many are
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
2004, 2005 was when I started, pretty young. And then kind of grew into loving sales and fitness and health and all that stuff. And then I kind of hit a ceiling and I broke away. I got into the door to door sales industry and then it kind of parlayed relationships getting into the home improvement industry. So I worked for a general contractor for a few years, selling and managing home remodeling projects. And then I looked at a friend of mine. I said, we could do this. So we ended up breaking off, getting our license, starting our own general contracting business. And I made every single mistake anyone starting a business without any direction could make.
Yeah.
We did quite well. Our first year, we did 1.4 million in sales.
Oh
However,
my gosh.
right, amazing, right? It was like, we're literally 25, 26-year-old kids. We had no idea what we were doing. And, it took off. However, we lost about $80,000 that year. So we're looking at the bank account going, okay, the
Wait,
sales,
what happened?
but the profit's not really there. What's happening? So we ended up getting a mentor, which was very costly, to kind of guide us through and partnered with us in the business. And then it kind of stabilized from there. Now, if I had to hit the reset button on that, probably would have joined a franchise. Like that was not even something I knew existed back then. This was in
Right.
2012, 2013 timeframe. And yeah, definitely learned the hard way. But
Yeah. But
success.
valuable. Yeah, yeah. Helpful information as you help others, at least from
For
some of
sure.
your experiences. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think some of us, we all just have to hit some branches on the way down before we learn how to climb it right.
Not everyone has to do that when investing in a business, which is,
Right. No, no, they don't. They don't. But it does help the rest of us to walk them through it. So let's chat a bit about Gorilla Property and how they're different in the market and just kind of start walking through the model and what an owner is typically doing in this business.
yeah, absolutely, Laura. So, Gorilla Property Services started as really a licensing deal in Canada. So they started in 2015. They started officially franchising the business in 2017. And before, it was just literally, hey, put the Gorilla logo on a polo, put it on your truck. Here's the tools, here's some direction, and good luck to you. And then around 2019, 2020 is when Andrew Edwards stepped in and really revolutionized the business itself. He put in different systems. He started creating more of a executive model in the business. They created
Mhm.
the technology called the Gorilla Pro, which is the CRM system they use. And it really started to solidify it as a real scalable model. Now, the way the business works is it's all mobile. So you get a truck, you have equipment, you have a technician that is trained in all the different services. And we go out and do all different exterior maintenance services. So think pressure washing, think window cleaning, gutter cleaning, roof clearing, and it's even year round services like snow removal and things like that. So a lot of other businesses in the space don't have all of those different services and definitely
Yeah.
can't perform things year round. Like a pressure washing business is not going to operate in the winter, right? It's that
Right.
when there's snow on the ground, we're not going to clear ice with a pressure washer, right? So you have to
Right.
get creative, and that's where Gorilla really shines.
Awesome. In that CRM that you were talking about, what's unique about that?
So what's really unique about it is it controls the entire business end to end. And so think of everything that you would use in a traditional business CRM, but then it goes beyond that because we're combining several different programs together. So it's an estimating software, it's a payroll software, it's a quoting and collecting payments and invoice software, it's a dispatch and employee communication tool all rolled into one. And it was created to make life as easy as possible for the franchisee. So the best way I can really describe it is it's really just having so many different tools at your fingertips and it runs on mobile. The entire business is typically ran from someone's cell phone. Now, a lot of people hear that and go, come on, is that real? Like, is it possible to run a large business from your phone? Yes, that's why this was created. Now, of course, you can still use it on your laptop or an iPad, but if you're out with family, friends, you want to have time back, this allows you to do that.
Amazing. So let's say a franchisee comes on board. What are they focusing, or they're starting off? Are they focusing on certain areas? Is there low hanging fruit? Or is there primary service that you do? Like how do they roll out in their community?
Yeah. So the way that a franchisee typically launches, Gorilla has a very step-by-step methodical approach to this. So
Okay.
when we launch a franchisee day one, it is a heavy focus on residential first. And so
Oh,
even though
okay.
we do residential and commercial, we like to focus on residential because it's easy wins. It's very high
Hmm.
demand. It is quick turnover on the projects. And it's just a smaller scale to be able to get the franchisee comfortable with the systems, with the processes, managing their employees, and just understanding the business in general. After about, let's say, 6 months, then we start introducing the method in which we get commercial projects. And it's a little different. So on the residential side, digital marketing, social media, Google, all those things are really easy to get residential. Commercial counts, property managers aren't cruising social media looking for contractors for this. So we have to go out and get the business. So we train the franchisee or someone they designate, like a salesperson, to create relationships, to go out, quote unquote, knock doors. You're going to businesses or, hey, here's a little basket. We want to introduce ourselves. This is what we do. We notice some needs on your property. We'd love to have a conversation, right? And so it's just little different ways, touch points to get that commercial business. But at the end of the day, it's relationship based. Everything in this business is about creating and fostering relationships. And that is something that, a lot of businesses talk about having, but it's like a wish list thing. That is how Gorilla operates. If we do not have the relationship with the customer, we can't expect them to trust us with a 3 year, 5 year contract for services. So that is really how this works.
Are you typically placing someone? Are they, because you mentioned 3 year, 5 year contracts, are they waiting for those to roll off and you're timing those reach outs? How does that typically work?
So it's about collecting enough of them. I mean, really, the benefit of the business is here's how I can describe it. On the residential side, that's what pays the bills. That's what helps people get cash flow positive quicker and things like that. On the commercial side, though, it sets people up for life. And so
Yeah.
because it's recurring, because it's contract based, and it's quite lucrative, they're larger projects. I mean, they're 5 figures on average. And so people go, wow, that is different than the residential. Residential is going to be, let's say, $800 to $2,000 for these services, whereas commercial jobs can average $30,000, $40,000. And that is where having the infrastructure and the capability to execute on those jobs become really important. And Gorilla helps a franchisee every step of the way. So it's why we have kind of a tiered system. It doesn't mean that the franchisee can't go out and get a commercial account really early on, but they wouldn't have the track record. They wouldn't have the reviews, they wouldn't have the credibility and the confidence to execute that. So we want to take people through that step-by-step process to ensure that they are delivering an excellent experience every single time.
How does it scale in terms of once they get that 6 month mark and they say, okay, I'm ready for commercial? Do they need another truck at that point? Do they?
Yeah, no, great question, Laura. So the business is very easily scalable, especially when it comes to the way the business is set up. So it's about having multiple vehicles on the road. Typically, people are bringing in a second vehicle anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So if they launch with a single vehicle and a single technician, they're already scaling to multiple vehicles before they've even gotten to the commercial side. Then from
Okay.
there, there's a lot of flexibility in the model. So employees can be W-2 or they can also be a 1099, a subcontractor. And the reason for that is because there's going to be special circumstances where a franchisee doesn't have the labor power, the manpower to execute on a job, and they may have to bring in outside help. And so you can contract that, get that customer, not have to turn them away, and everybody wins. And so that is a real powerful force in the business.
How many franchisees are you guys up to now?
I lost count. No, I'm just kidding. So I think so. We had our first confirmation day in March. It was the middle of March. We
Yeah.
had, I think, 6 total franchisees move forward for close to 15 units. We now, with April already kind of out of the way as far as our main confirmation days, I think we have another 14 or close to 20 locations. So we'll be over 30 territories, I think, awarded here, or 35 here just in the coming week or so. And we got a lot of momentum on our side right now.
That's fantastic. Now, is there about a mix between who's signing up as owner operator versus the executive model? How's that looking right now?
Yeah. So I thought it would be more semi absentee heavy, but it is 50-50 right now. So we do have people who go, I like the sound of this. I'm willing to leave my full time job to pursue this. And
Right.
a lot of it has to do with the flexibility in the model. They can be as involved or as uninvolved as they want, but there still needs to be touch points with, their team and the systems and the budgets and things like that. But a lot of people are hiring a manager day one, even if they're going to be owner operator. They want to have
Okay.
a side person cooperating with them in the business. So, but that could be a spouse, that could be a business partner, or it could just be someone that you hire specifically for them.
What's the owner typically doing starting at the beginning?
So a lot of it is really managing the marketing budget, managing customer inflow. So the way that this works is when a lead comes through the system, it goes to
Hmm.
the call center intercepts it and either contacts the lead directly or someone's calling into the call center to get information. Then the call center will qualify that person. And it is a person. This is a common question. Is it AI? There could be in the future, but for now, it is a human being. They are North American based. So it's based in
Hmm.
Canada right now. We will probably have a US call center at some point as we're kind of growing, expanding. But that person's trained to qualify the customer, go over the different services, answer basic questions, and then do a warm transfer to the franchisee. So from there, the franchisee will either take the phone call or have a designated time where they'll make an appointment to contact the customer. And then from there, they go over services and then close them on the business.
Okay. When they get in terms of the residential, is there a primary mix of the type of product that or their service they're doing? Is it, Windows versus power? I don't know. What's the mix?
So that's a great question. It is kind of regionally based, right? So like the Northeast in the winter is going to have a lot of the winter services, right? They're not going to have the window washing or the pressure washing. Whereas, in the summer, in like Phoenix, Arizona. We did just award a franchisee in kind of the Phoenix area. They
Hmm.
very much look at this as like, we're going to be very heavy pressure washing, soft washing, and window cleaning because a lot of dust, dirt, debris.
Yeah.
They get
Yeah.
something called a haboon. I didn't even know what that was until I met this person, but it's like
Yeah.
a giant dust sandstorm that can hit a
Yes.
town and just dirty everything. So I say, hey, you're in a great area to execute these
Yes.
services because if that happens, everybody needs the service at the same time. So it's
Right.
a unfair advantage at that point.
Interesting. And then scaling, you talked about they just continue to add vans and then technicians. So not a huge, heavy employee base either, right? And where
Not
are they typically
necessarily.
finding the technicians that can do, I guess, these multi items? Are they window cleaning as well as power washing, as well as I don't know what else, but
So for the most part, the technicians are trained at all the different services, but you may have some like specialists where let's just say a client wants a special service. Like I'll give you an example. This is what really makes Gorilla unique. They are very about their brand integrity. However, they also preach and really encourage flexibility and autonomy in the business. So a franchisee can add services to the business that aren't typically part of the Gorilla model. So for example, lawn and tree care. We're not a lawn and tree care business, but a
okay.
handful of franchisees execute lawn and tree care for a handful of clients because that's what they asked for. They said they had a need, they didn't have anyone reliable, and that franchisee said, I'll go and buy some tools and I'll do it. And we'll put them on a recurring membership. And so now the key to that was that word spread. And then they had multiple clients doing that. And so they have a literal vehicle or several vehicles and a crew that's all they do. That's their specialized service. They just go and execute. Then they have crews who only do gutter cleaning and pressure washing. And so they can outfit their vehicles to just do those services so that they're not required to have to buy like the entire equipment package every single time. So there's some
That makes
customization.
okay. Okay. So what in terms of the people that have been drawn to this makeup backgrounds or what's pulling people in? What do they like about it?
Love this question, Laura. Love this question. So they do not need to have any home service experience whatsoever. And in fact, I think out of all the franchisees we've signed here in the US so far, only one of them had a slight background. They were an accounting for a contractor, like a construction company. So they
Yeah,
weren't
so
even
that
directly
counts.
involved with the
Yeah,
business. They were just
yeah.
an accountant for them. So not really the same thing, but that was their exposure to the industry, right? So I would say most recently, I mean, people who are teachers, who are, in management, whether it's in tech or it's in finance, we've signed a few commercial bankers and, things like that. So they can come from a wide variety of industries. Actually, most unique one, I think, is a scientist. Like they worked in a lab historically and
Oh
they were
my
just like,
gosh.
yeah, I'm tired of the medical lab industry. I
Yeah.
want to do something for me and do something completely opposite of what I'm doing. That's not going to go away. So that's how
Yeah.
they the gorilla. Yeah, very, very unique.
Very cool. Overall investment typically for this model?
So the range of investment is 128,000 to about 215,000. So it's quite low for a home service business. I
Yes.
would say the average, like let's say 1 to 2 territories, is going to be between 160 and 200,000 all in.
Okay. And so because the equipment, must not be too expensive, I guess, to be able to do that. I mean, that's pretty reasonable.
And there's options within that. So one of the
Okay.
things that also makes Gorilla unique is there's a lot of flexibility in how they either purchase the equipment or they can lease the equipment, or you can purchase the vehicle or you can lease the vehicle. We even allow people, if they have their own vehicle, as long as we can modify it and put a wrap on it with the logo, they can use an existing vehicle, not even have to buy or lease one altogether. So there is a lot of flexibility.
Okay. Okay. So I would imagine the B2B sales element, when they really start diving into the commercial is an important role. Are owners typically hiring that position? Or are they some doing it themselves or
So that's a good question. I haven't talked with every single owner. I would say a good majority of them like doing it themselves, but the others that are like, I'm more behind the scenes, I'm more hands off in that department, they absolutely understand that they hired someone to do those things exclusively and then they can take on other roles in the business. But a lot of people will hire just an exclusive salesperson to field calls, to go out and get commercial business and things like that.
and do you see it growing over time that you'll be able to have like a national accounts program?
We already do. So
You already do. Boom, boom. I didn't
so
know that.
yeah, so in Canada, Gorilla is the largest company in this space currently in Canada, and
Okay.
we already have some very strong relationships that we're bringing to the US. I think I'm allowed to talk about some of them publicly. Home Depot is one of those
Okay.
national. So part of the Home Depot Pro program, consumers go in and say, I want these services, and then they refer them to a approved vendor. We're the exclusive partner in Canada. We are about to be that here in the US once we reach a certain level of open locations, which is happening much sooner than we expected. We're
That
very
is
excited about
fantastic.
that. Franchisees will benefit directly from that relationship. Gorilla Corporate is not taking a commission from that. They are simply helping get them that business. And then once they complete the jobs, Home Depot just cuts them a check at the end of the month.
I love that. I mean, I think that's a true sign of a strong franchisor when they, secure those, aren't trying to get a piece of it because rising tides, right? Bring all the ships up there. Everybody's going to do better if
And I'll be
everybody can grow.
leadership loves to do it. Like
Yeah.
they are a lot of those accounts, like there's a few other Canadian accounts that are kind of more exclusive to Canada, but they came
Yeah.
from franchisees. Franchisee just happened to know somebody or open the door somewhere. And then Andrew,
Fantastic.
the president, would go in and have meetings exclusively with whoever they needed to talk to. And over time would develop the relationship and then close a national account. And he loves it. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but he is
Yeah.
want more of that. He wants to have other franchisees bring major relationships because it is beneficial to everybody involved when we sign those national accounts.
Because I imagine getting into those property managers, isn't easy, but you've got a really unique mix of offerings. So that's certainly going to help get in there. But it's probably like anything else, even like the senior care industry. You've got to just keep on going back and building before they try you out, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, there's definitely a process to it. It's not an
Yeah.
overnight thing, but it's not as complicated as people maybe might originally think it would be. And that's the benefit of working with a team that's as experienced as Gorilla. They've done this across multiple franchisees. I mean, we're up to almost 60 locations in Canada with about 50 plus franchisees. So that is something where they have a ton of experience doing that for people. And then it's just
Hmm.
about following our process.
Right. Right. And obviously That's what differentiates, the strong owners, I think. Anything that you're looking for potential franchisees to or candidates to ask you when they're going through the process?
Well, that's a great question. I didn't think you would hit me with too much of a curveball, but that is a good question. I think a lot of it is just understanding what the requirements are to launch successfully. Because I think that is always a topic of discussion, no matter what candidate is and no matter what business they're looking at. They want to understand, what does the first 90 days look like? What does the first 6 months? And what does that look like both from like a business standpoint and a support standpoint? So I always try and coach candidates, like when they get on validation calls, I don't tell them what questions to ask, but I say there should be some topics that should be top of mind that really are going to help you understand the model better, right? May not get them all the way to like oh, this is absolutely for me, but it's going to give them significantly more clarity into what this business looks like from an owner standpoint. So like on the leadership side, we have validation calls every single week. And on those validation calls, Andrew actually does the leadership call. He loves doing it every single week. And so he's very open and accessible, where he says, listen, guys, no questions off limits. Like, ask me anything. And they dig. And one of the topics that always come up is, what does that first 90 days look like? And I don't want to speak entirely for him, but there is a lot involved. Like, you have multiple people on the corporate team that are there for the franchisee. Each department has a different role and they interact with people very regularly. So even
Yeah.
if you have like a once a week meeting, if someone needs to reach out and talk to someone 2, 3 times in a week, leading up to a launch or 30 days post launch, they're going to be as available as they possibly can. They want to make themselves to basically help guide them through that process so that there's no stone left unturned, right? Now, the other part of it on the franchisee side is I tell people, everybody always goes straight to the numbers. And how are you really this profitable? Is the numbers accurate? And all this, that's great. But you should also ask, what are the things that I should do to develop those relationships, to get those
Yeah.
commercials? Like, right? Like, those are the things that people aren't quite thinking about right off the bat. But then they get in the business, they go, oh, I have that question. Like, oh, how do I do this? Right. So that's really kind of a key point that we try and coach on.
Excellent. Excellent. So you talked already one unique way that franchisees added on different services already. Anything else any funny stories that you have of any of your Canadian ones?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's a funny story, but like when people talk about like recession proof or recession resistant businesses, I can't think of one that is more that description than Gorilla. And a really good example of that is one of our franchisees in a very, very small town called Moncton, New Brunswick. I'm somewhat familiar with Canada. I mean, I live in Southern California, but I'm kind of a geography nerd. I'd never heard of this area. I go, where is that? They have their
Yeah.
own time zone. It's like the easternmost part of Canada. They're 4 hours ahead of California instead of just the normal 3 hours Eastern Standard Time. And when they launched their business, they launched it 2 days before the world shut down from COVID. So you want to talk about timing. That was a very scary time. And they invested all this money, they put all this effort into it. They launched literally, I think it was March 14th, and then everything shut down March 16th in Canada. And so they were like, oh, we made a mistake. Like they thought they were never really going to be able to operate. They go, man, we're out all this money and we don't know what's going to happen. The Gorilla leadership team immediately stepped in and said, we're going to make this work. We're going to figure this out. And they got on calls together and all the franchisees collaborated to say, how can we make an effort to pivot and benefit from something like this? Obviously, there was a little bit of uncertainty, but then after about 30 days, we had people relaunching their business. 30 days. I mean, not a lot of downtime. And
Yeah.
this particular franchisee really saw the opportunity, went all in on it, and said, I'm going to make this work no matter what. And he said his biggest benefit was being able to collaborate with the other franchisees. And I don't want to give away all their secrets, but one of the things that is a benefit of joining Gorilla is they have their own Discord channel, like a Discord group. And I don't know if you're familiar with Discord, kind of a social, it was originally for gaming. Now people are using it for business and all these different
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
They have a Discord group where they all communicate with each other every single day. They share best practices, they do chat groups, and it's every single franchisee hypes this up on validation, saying this is a game changer because they'll share tools and
Huge.
resources on
Right.
there, and it's massive. So that is maybe not a funny story, but something where
No, a neat story though.
they were able
Yeah.
to pivot and be successful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sure that, once you got through that first 30 days scary period, they probably took off because everybody started doing stuff,
Yeah. There was a
a lot of cleaning.
need at that point.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else that you want to bring up about Gorilla and what makes them so unique and the opportunity, what people can envision? I mean, you can build anything with commercial and residential, you can build a big business. So, but
I would say, there's a lot of choices out there for people when it comes to franchising. And I've been a part of different brands in the past. What really makes Gorilla unique, and this might be cliche, you might hear this from other people, but the leadership truly cares. And one thing that
Yeah,
the
I
feedback
agree.
I get as a director of development for them, from candidates, from placements, is how incredibly involved the leadership team actually is, how communicative they are, how upfront they are, how transparent they are, and they feel supported. They come away from the calls, they come away from our confirmation day, which is virtual. We do a virtual one. That's really hard to convey virtually. And they do
Yeah.
such a phenomenal job. Candidates always come away going, wow, it is very clear these people have my back. They know what they're doing, and I trust them. That is very, very hard to do. And they make it look effortless. So I give them a lot of credit in that. Obviously, the candidate's doing their homework and all these things. So it has to go together, but they do a very, very good job of treating each individual franchisee like family. I've yet to see a lot of companies do it as authentic as the way they do it.
It's fantastic. And I mean, I tell people like, you need to feel that you are their customer, that, they are going to be all about the support. So when they can do it so effortlessly, it's there. Those are the ones that stay in it for the long haul. That's
Definitely.
yeah. Fantastic. Well, Chris, I really appreciate your time. This was really, really yeah, looking forward to working together some.
Absolutely, Laura. It was my pleasure. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Yeah. All right.